Welcome back to the channel, guys. So, birdie dogs, aka Gryph-Hounds, from issue 37 of the magazine is what we are painting today. So, using one of these guys, we're going to be painting him in yellowish type body with a brown head, so very much lion type look to it. So, first of all, as usual, I've undercoated this with grey primer, and I'm now going over with a few layers of Avalon Sunset. Now, I have thinned this a little bit more than I'd like to. There's a bit much water on the wet palette there, so it's thinned the paint down a bit, but not to worry, it still goes on nice and smooth. Just takes a couple of extra coats, extra layers. So for this one, like I said, we're going to do this nice and easy. Yellow body, brown head, and obviously some bone type claws. So I'll get on with this and catch you guys in a flesh. Okay, so I'm now taking some Uriel yellow and a sort of a medium-sized makeup brush here. Also my dry brush and large basin brush and general cover it all brush, and removing the majority of the excess on a paper towel. I'm just going over all the model, just backwards and forwards, nice easy dry brush. Obviously pretty much on the top of the model, not going so much underneath. We want to keep that nice sort of darker Avalon Sunset as the undertone and the shadow tone, but what we're looking to do here is pick off pretty much everything bar the deeper recesses. So you can see here, just remove a little bit and go back over. So I'll do this a couple of times, you know, try and get it as even as possible. If you damp the brush a little bit and squeeze out any excess water just before doing this, you can get a little bit of a smoother blend, but just be careful that the brush is as dry as possible with that mild dampness. Obviously you don't want wet paint going on this, otherwise it's going to go into the recesses. So yeah, just a damp bit of paint, but minimal paint on the brush. So I'll get on with this. I'll be back in a bit. Okay, so just prior to this next step, I forgot to hit the record button. What I've done is applied a wash over the whole of the yellow area using a mix of 3 parts Viclin Flesh Shade and a small amount, just a small drop of Flashkit's yellow, Uriel yellow, sorry, so the previous colour we were using. I've mixed that in and then just added a few more drops of Lamian medium just to thin it down a little bit more, and then what I've done is wash that over the model as evenly as possible, and then obviously making sure that it doesn't pool up too much, but that we do get it in those recesses and sort of in the definition of the muscles, and then obviously the underside. I let that dry for about 20 minutes, and I'm now going over with some Flashkit's yellow in the same manner that we did with the Uriel yellow. So dry brushing over the top, just making sure that we pick off those very top highlights and some of the raised edges of those muscle tones. So obviously apologies for missing the wash stage there on camera, but hopefully you guys can see the effect that it's given with the flesh tone, the shading there, and obviously we've got this nice highlight going off over the top. And with that dry brushing done, I'm just taking some of that Flashkit's yellow here and just picking off the most raised, defined portions of muscle tone. Obviously they have quite a bit of muscle on these hounds, so just going over, and this is thinned down, you know, I don't want it standing out too much, it's just to smooth out some of that dry brushing and just to pick off anything that the dry brushing may have missed. Obviously keeping this all on the top portions of the hound, nothing underneath. We want that darker tone underneath for shadow. And yeah, so once this step is done, we can move on. Okay, so next up, I'm just taking some Doomball Brown, and we'll be using this for the base coat of the feathers on the head here. And what I'm going to do, obviously you can see I've done the beak in the same yellow as the body, and we're going to cover all of this, and then as we come towards the beak, we're going to blend it in slightly, mix in a little bit of yellow and just blend that in on the face area so that the beak still stands out with its yellow. You'll get this slightly yellowish brown on the face, and then down to this main Doomball Brown for the feathers. Super easy to paint these guys. Really easy to practice techniques such as dry brushing and shading on, as they've got that deep, muscle tone area. They've got those nice big surfaces, obviously the back of the body and those raised areas of the muscles. So great for practicing techniques. And with Gryph-Hounds you can pretty much do any colours you want. You can go with nice bright vibrant colours, or you can go with more pastel type colours. So yeah, it really is up to you how you want to do these guys, but obviously this is just one way that I think looks pretty impressive by the time we're done. So I'll get on with this and we'll be back in a bit. Okay, so I thought I'd jump back in and show you guys how I did the head. What I've done is, or what I will be doing, is thinning down this brown with quite a bit of water. I do want it quite thin, and what we're going to do is some wet blending. Super easy to do, especially on this model, nice and easy to practice. Get your paint thinned down, your main colour, so in this case the Doomball Brown. Load it up onto your brush and then dip the tip, just the tip you can see there, into the yellow. And then all we do is, with a side to side motion, backwards and forwards, starting where we want the yellow, coming back to where we want the brown. And what will happen is the yellow will start off fairly strong, and as the paint comes off, as the yellow is pulled off the bristles, the brown behind it, the wet brown, will blend in with the yellow that is left on the brush. And what you'll get is this nice blend coming back from the yellow to the brown. It may take a couple of attempts, you might need to go over a couple of times to smooth it out. Get back on camera there. But you can see there's the yellow. If you go too bright, just go back over it and some of that brown will come down, and you can blend that yellow back to a more golden colour. And bear in mind that what's on the brush now is a little bit of a mix of the two, as it does mix on the brush as well as on the model. But I'm using that just to paint in the tops of the ears there. So again, small amount of yellow, and just repeat it until you've got the blend that you want. So there's my yellow, nice and bright towards the beak, coming back to that mix a little bit further back. I do have to remember to get this in camera. So you can see there, a nice little bit just on the end, probably a little bit too much there if I'm honest. Hence why I'm going backwards and forwards very close to where the start of it was. But as long as you've got the wet brown behind, you can go back over. You don't have a huge amount of working time. It is acrylic paint, it does dry, but depending on the humidity of the environment you're painting in, you do get 20-30 seconds that you can get a little bit of blending. All I'm doing now is just pulling this back over just to catch some of these edges on the feathers here before we go in and apply the next step. So I hope that that little bit was helpful for you with wet blending. I will do some more tutorial based focuses on particular skills like wet blending, dry brushing and things like that in the future, but hopefully that'll give you an idea for now. So get on with this and we'll jump back in a bit. Okay, so next up I'm taking some Tuscaur fur and a size 0 brush, and I'm just picking off the edges, almost like a triangle shape, so one edge up to a point and then back down the other edge of each individual feather. Now you could do this with dry brushing, but I wanted a little bit more of a stark contrast that will be blended back down once we apply a shade. So I'm just going to go over all the feathers with this. Like I say, being careful, just get a nice thin line on each individual feather. Not worrying too much about the ones near the head. As you can see, I've blended a little bit of yellow on them just to blend them into the head. But all the ones that come back down towards the body will get this Tuscaur fur. So I'll get on with this. Catch you guys in a bit. Okay, and with that done, I'm just going to apply a generous wash of Reichland Flesh Shade over all of the feathers. And what this is going to do is just darken up and settle in where those feathers overlap. And with the highlight that we've put on there, this just ties it all in nicely together. So I'll apply this, leave it again for about 20 minutes to dry, make sure it is fully dry before moving on to the next step, and then we'll come back. Okay, and with that wash done, I'm now going back in with the Tuscaur fur and just very carefully picking off some edges on the top portion of the Gryph-Hound, obviously where the light would hit a little bit more. So just to pick that out. Obviously it's going to show anyway where we had them before the wash, and the wash will have darkened those up, but also the brown that was applied before that. All we're doing is just picking off or creating some extra highlights. So I'll get on with this. I'll let you guys hit that like button if you're enjoying the video, and if you're not already subscribed, hit that subscription button and ding that bell for notifications of when further videos are uploaded. I'll get on with this and catch you guys in a bit. Okay, so with that done, I'm just taking some of the Doombull brown and Tuscaur fur, just a little bit mixed in together, and just applying that to the ends of the tail, the fur parts here. And then what I'll do is just dip into a little bit of yellow, the Uriel yellow, and blend that, and then backwards and forwards between the yellow and the brown, increasing the amount of yellow to brown each time. I will layer that up the tail to about halfway. You could also do it with wet blending as we did on the head, but again, just another little technique, just because it's the way I did it. So yeah, that will be the tail done. So I'll get on with that and we'll be back in a bit. Okay, so with the main part of the hound finished, I'm now taking some Abaddon Black and just applying this carefully over the collar. So that's the piece that goes around his neck, the two straps that come off with the meteor emblem on them, and obviously the meteor emblem itself, and then the two little lightning bolts. But aside from the claws, it's pretty much the grey area, anything attached to the collar around his neck. So I'll get on with that and be back in a bit. And with that done, I'm just taking some Mechanicus Standard Grey and applying that to the straps attaching to the collar and the meteor piece there. Nothing too complicated, just picking off those edges with the Mechanica Standard, and then I'll go back over those areas with a finer line of Dawnstone, again just to pick out an extra little bit of highlight on top of those edges. So I'll get on with that, and then we'll be back to do some gold. So for the gold parts on this, just going to keep it nice and simple. It's only a Gryph-Hound, we don't need to go too over the top with it. So Retributor armour, couple of thin coats on the Meteor, and the collar that goes around the neck. I was in two minds whether to do that in a black or gold, but I decided to go with the gold. Also the spike and shield part that comes off of his chest will be done in this as well. One other thing to note here is you can see the pads on the bottom of his feet. I did them with the Tuskor fur mixed with a little bit of yellow, just to give a little bit of, you know, colour definition to the pads, make them stand out a little bit on his feet. But that is a totally personal choice, entirely up to you if you want to do that or leave it the same as the rest of the body. So I'll get on with this gold and then catch you guys in a bit. Okay, so for the silver parts here, the lightning bolt and the I suppose it's the leash ring on the back of the neck, I'm just using some iron breaker, and then I will put a small amount of Nuln oil over the top of that, just to tone it down slightly, but nice and simple, and then we can move on. Okay, so moving on to the claws. First, I'm applying a base coat of Baneblade Brown. Now the claws I found on this model aren't greatly sculpted. They tend to sort of join together, as you can see on this foot. However, the other foot, they are individual claws. So I basically just went in with the Baneblade Brown and gave it an all-over coat over the claws. And once that was dry, I just picked off the top edges with some Rakarth flesh, just to add a little bit of simple highlight. Like I said, we're just looking for a nice, quick, easy paint job on this guy. Nothing overly complicated, keeping colours to a minimum. But there you go. And you can see here, I'm just mixing up a small colour, just taking some of the Doombull Brown, the yellow, and the Rakarth flesh, just to get a slightly pinkish tone. You could use another colour for this, a red or a pink or something. This is just going to be used for the tongue, rather than going out with, you know, 100 different paints. You can always mix paints up to get a colour that you want. So yeah, just applying this to the tongue. I didn't want anything overly bright and vibrant. You know, just something sort of neutral and muted down on the tongue, and then on the what I suppose would be the inner side of the ears. Okay, and finally, I'm just taking some Reichland Flesh Shade and just applying this to the gold areas. Now normally I would use the gloss version, as it will keep that shine, but as I'm trying to keep the paints minimal here to show you guys that you can do this with minimal paint, minimal colours, all I'm doing is applying it in and then removing some of it, just to leave those edges in that gold, and all this will do is just seep down into the corners and the underside, and just add a little bit of shade to those golden areas. Like I say, the gloss version will retain some of the shine, but the matte version works just as well and doesn't look too bad. So I'll get on with this, and that will be the model done for today's video. I'll catch you guys in a sec. And there we go, guys. I've painted up the base, obviously adding some stone and some texture and stuff, and adding a couple of tufts, painting the trim black, and we have one Gryph-Hound ready for the tabletop. I hope you enjoyed the video, guys. I thank you ever so much for joining me and for the continued support of the channel. If you have liked the video, hit that like button. If you are new to the channel, welcome. If you are not subscribed, hit that subscription button and ding that little bell for notifications of when new video go live. And until next time, guys, take it easy and keep painting those minis.